This NBA season featured a ton of trades, which amassed to 59 active players being shuffled around the entire league, highlighted by some big names being moved, including Kevin Durant to Phoenix, Kyrie Irving to Dallas, Russell Westbrook being bought out by Utah, and D'Angelo Russell being shipped back to the Lakers. One name that has slipped under the radar as of late is Mikal Bridges. Mikal was talked about a lot on the day of the deadline, considering he swapped places with one of the league's premier players in Kevin Durant. It is easy to make Mikal an afterthought. Everyone was curious how the first few Nets games would go with their new team, and they have slid under the radar ever since. Mikal Bridges was acquired overnight on February 9th ahead of the trade deadline, as Brooklyn decided they were ready to take their franchise in a different direction. Since Mikal Bridges has become a Brooklyn Net, he has been extremely impressive, more impressive than I think anyone would have really expected. In 20 games played, Mikal is averaging 26.8 points, grabbing 4.6 rebounds, and dishing 2.6 assists per game on some very impressive shooting splits, shooting 49.6% from the field, 41.2% from 3, and 91% from the charity stripe. That would equate to a 63.4 true shooting percentage. Just for comparison's sake, there are only 16 players in the league who are averaging 25 points per game or more, while shooting at a clip of 60 true shooting percentage or better. Mikal as a net would rank at 7th most efficient if you put him into this group. Only 8 of those 16 guys are at the age of 26 or younger, which is how old Mikal is. It's important to remember that Mikal has only played 20 games during this stretch, but it is very impressive, and Brooklyn should be very excited about things moving forward. The bill on Mikal Bridges was that he would come into the league as an NBA-ready 3-and-D player, and he would eventually become that. Mikal was selected 10th overall in the 2018 draft after a very successful collegiate career at Villanova. He would play 3 seasons under Jay Wright, winning 2 national championships. Mikal really showed what he was capable of on the biggest stage during his 2018 NCAA tournament run, averaging 18 points per game, shooting 52.5% from the field, 48% from 3, and 87% from the free throw line, equating to a 69.6 true shooting percentage. Prior to the draft, the NBA knew Mikal was going to be that 3-and-D wing that every team salivates for, but in his tournament run, he displayed flashes of a dribble drive in a mid-range game which really showed up during his 5th NBA season this year. I am certain that Suns fans probably could have seen this coming, as he showed flashes of this kind of stuff in his days playing for Phoenix. In a 5-week stretch where Devin Booker wasn't playing, Mikal played 21 games and performed really well. He averaged 19.5 points, grabbed 3.6 rebounds, and dished 4.6 assists, while still shooting very efficiently. 46.3% from the field, 38.1% from 3, and 91.2% from the free throw line, equating to a 58.1 true shooting percentage. In 12 of these 21 games, Mikal scored 20 points or more. In the 34 games before that, Mikal cracked 20 points or more only 9 times. When Kevin Durant first requested his trade over the summer heading into this NBA season, Phoenix was listed at the top of his destination list. Mikal was listed as one of those guys going to the Nets in a potential trade package, as Brooklyn was very keen on Mikal as an asset and as a player. If I had to bet, I would imagine that someone that works in the front office for Brooklyn was tasked with watching Mikal play in Phoenix this year. Mikal's 21-game stretch of success scoring coincided with the slow burn of the demise in Brooklyn. I could only imagine that Mikal was at the top of their list if Kevin Durant decided to request a trade, and here we are. Mikal, in his short tenure in Brooklyn, has had some really impressive performances. In just his 3rd game in Brooklyn, his 2nd game playing in Barclays, Mikal had an extremely impressive performance against the Miami Heat where he would score a career-high 45 points in a win. Just last night in a loss to Orlando, Mikal would score 44, which is just the 2nd 40-point game of his career and within just a few months of the Miami game. Since he has been a Net, Mikal has scored 30 or more 8 separate times. Over the course of his entire career in Phoenix, he only scored 32 times. Mikal's current usage rate in Brooklyn is 28.8%, which is by far the highest in his career. Usage rate is an estimate of how many plays a particular player is a part of over the course of the game. The formula basically takes the product of the player's field goal attempts, free throw attempts, turnovers, and minutes played, and then divides it by the product of the team's identical statistics. It is a neat stat to use to show how involved a player is or how big of a role they have for their team. For example, Luka Doncic is a big focal point of the Dallas Mavericks offense. His usage rate is 38.2%. Compare that to a player like Clint Capella, whose primary responsibility is setting screens, rolling to the rim, and crashing the boards. His usage rate is only 15.7%. Usage rate isn't a good indicator of how good or how bad a player is, but it is a great indicator of how much responsibility that player may have. The most intriguing part of Mikal's tenure in Brooklyn is that he finally gets to showcase how dynamic of a scorer he has become on a larger scale. In his rookie season, over 83% of Mikal's shots either came from within 3 feet or behind the three-point line. This would be the shot profile of a prototypical 3-and-D wing, which means 83% of his shots are threes and dunks or layups, which is good for that role. His shot profile has diversified over the years, and now that number is down to 49%, which is the lowest of his career. Mikal's tenure in Brooklyn also features the lowest amount of assisted shots he has ever made. In the first 4 years of his career, Mikal has been assisted on 75.6% of his 2-point shot makes and has been assisted on 98% of his 3-point shot makes. In Brooklyn, those numbers are down to 39.7% on 2s and 83.3% on 3s, indicating that he is generating much more of his own offense than ever before. Mikal is doing all of this while still remaining just as efficient as he has ever been. It's extremely impressive. The future for Mikal in Brooklyn remains to be seen, as they have a lot of roster reconstruction to work on. Claxton and Bridges should be their 2 bona fide building blocks moving forward, but everyone else should be up for sale. Brooklyn had a very busy trade deadline, so I will give them the benefit of the doubt, but as of now, they have a lot of positional overlap that will need fixing this offseason. Right now, Brooklyn has Mikal on a bargain. He's getting paid $90 million over 4 years, and he's currently in the first year of that contract. He was given this rookie scale contract extension in October of 2021 by Phoenix. Brooklyn has a lot of decisions to make. Cam Johnson is a restricted free agent this summer. Seth Curry and Yuta Watanabe are both unrestricted free agents. Nick Claxton will be a free agent the following year, and he's going to need to be paid, and he's only making $8.75 million next year. It's unclear what Ben Simmons' role is going to be with this team moving forward. Then you also have Joe Harris, Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Patty Mills, who all have a variety of abilities, but mostly slot into off-ball roles. I think Brooklyn could benefit from finding a real table-setting point guard and finding a legitimate 4-man to put between Mikal Bridges and Nick Claxton. Brooklyn fans, you have a lot to be excited about, but it might require some patience. I can only imagine that Mikal has helped breathe some fresh, clean air into the lungs of Nets fandom.